petitions were.
We'll call this meeting to order. We've got Steve right up here today. Everybody met Steve? Okay. Except I think Michael Chair, you weren't here.
No, I was sick.
This is Steve LaFerre,
Nice to meet you.
Executive Director at the NISAC. And he's been working with us. He was at the last meeting. He took quite a lot of notes. He's been through our charter. He had some suggestions and some ideas. And I think I'm going to turn the floor over to him right now and get an idea what he's come up with, and we'll take it from there.
So it's a pleasure to be back with you.
Pleasure to have you back.
Right?
Yes.
I brought with me, and I'll leave it to chair up here, and I thought it was an easy to read charter. And it looks like a lot, but it's from Orange County. And it laid out the charter, and then the code was right after it. So it was in one book, and it was easy to follow along. And what I put together, just looking through it, is just taking your charter and then through each piece, expanding on it a little bit to see if there were some things you wanted to add in there that you wouldn't put in the charter to make it easier to read, or for the department head to be in that position, or the elected official to be there. It makes it easier to go with. So I'll leave that with you and read today. When we left last time, and I wish I was able to get more done, but it was hit me right at the end of the legislative session, and it was quite a session in Albany. Very difficult in this session. But some of the things that we talked about, we were talking about the code. And I wanted to report to you that the administrative code is not required to be placed into your charter. Okay? So when I read that in the statutes, it's optional. You do not need to do an administrative code. Now, with that said, in your code, in your charter rather, you did make reference to it.
104A.
Okay, so you decided that when you did this, that you would, let's see, section 1503. Adoption of the administrative code. The administrative code shall be adopted by local law. So it's optional for you, but should you choose to do it, you do it by local law. So that's one thing I wanted to report to you. Here's Patrick. Patrick Cummins, our assistant counsel.
Come right in.
Would you like him to come in here?
Yes, come right in, sit right down on one of these.
Oh, Paul? I got it. I was at the other county folks, I apologize.
Make yourself at home, right one of those desks there.
Right.
Give you some room to work there.
Okay, so that's a local law to do your administrative code. Okay, here's the other piece of important news that I wanted to bring to you here. When we were here last discussing, we were finding all different things in the charter that were interesting to us, that we didn't know before it was passed. We were a little concerned about how to implement it. We talked about a charter review commission. And I'm here to report to you today that you do not need to go back to the people to amend your charter. We can do this by resolution of the board. Unless you are talking about taking away the powers and the duties of an elected official. So a lot of the things that were in here that were a little choppy, because it moved kind of quickly through here, the board, and if you do it in January, then the county executive, with the approval of the executive, can amend your charter by resolution.
Not to be a pain.
Please,
This
the
always
whole
bothers
process
me.
is okay.
Could you explain, maybe you're a lawyer?
Sure,
right?
yeah, we both are.
Oh,
Yep.
both lawyers, okay.
Yep.
1501 to me, just the first sentence here, or first two sentences. What does that really mean? It says amendment of the charter.
The charter may be proposed, amendment may be proposed by a member of the county legislature, the county executive, or the legislative bodies of any of the towns.
What does that mean?
I think it means what it probably says.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering, but that's a little different than it's ever done anywhere. It says,
A lot of things are a little different than they're done elsewhere here.
well, we know that.
in this charter.
No, so that's telling me if there's a, it didn't say the city, that's when I was looking at this at the beginning, unless it meant because they copied this, some of this, I guess, from
So the
somewhere else.
towns or the villages
Right.
can petition the board. That's how I read this.
That's how I read it.
That's how I read it too.
Yeah.
Executive.
But the
or
city can't.
Apparently the city cannot.
There's no mention of the city either.
But
Yeah.
could this be amended to put the city in there?
Certainly.
Yes.
By
Okay.
resolution.
It would almost appear, since you've got 37% of the population, which has been excluded.
By resolution of the board.
Okay, just, so I wanted to clarify that when I read it the first time. All right.
I do think that is a rare thing to have in here. this
I did too
petition
when I read it. I
process.
thought it was
This is
different.
gonna be
Normally
a
it's
hot, yeah, this is a good question from Michael, because this is gonna be a hot button issue, right?
It could be, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there's
good.
potential.
What if a town comes in and says, okay, and then you've got to go through whatever else it says here, the 2/3, but it says subject to referendum on petition. What does that mean?
The proposal must then be enacted by a local law, so you'd have to do it if the board wanted to follow through what this amendment was being
Right.
proposed. Subject to a referendum on petition as provided in municipal home rule law.
Referendum and petition typically means it's not, it means it's different than a straight petition. It means that you need to go out and get signatures. It's typically, I can't remember the percentage, I think it's between 5 and 10% of the population. You need a signature, the proper amount of signatures in, I think, a month or two time in order to then get what's normally considered a referendum, meaning the yes or no vote on the ballot. So it's different than a referendum on petition is different than a normal referendum. So if you followed what 1501 says, that would be the process that you need to do. But going back to what Steve said and what our research saw is that you can make even changes as long as you're like this. You can change this section as well by your own, without going to a referendum. You can amend this section as well, as long as it's not taking away power or duty. That's the of an elected official. So that's going to have to be your guiding. Now, and that can get a little gray at times on what is and is not taking away a power or duty of an elected official. And there's case law that can help out with that. And Steve and I even found that when you're talking about terms, that's not taking away a power or duty of an elected official. That's just saying how long they can serve. It's not saying they've got more or less power. It's so that's actually a case we found in it's actually Mayor Bloomberg case that he. That he actually got a third term, and that just by a referendum. It didn't need just by their own ordinance. It didn't have to go to the people because it didn't change his powers or duties. His powers and duties remained the same. Just how long he could serve changed.
Let me ask you a question. Why did you put this provision in
I have no idea.
about the towns and the villages?
We got copied.
Yeah.
Don't ask why any of these provisions, because none of these provisions were put in by the Charter Commission.
We didn't do this.
I really think that, I don't want to, I'm not here to obviously tell the board what to do. But I really think that you should be, it's the county that should be amending a charter. The board. And this provision that you have in here is very strange to me.
We could offer a suggestion that they amend it. We can't amend this.
Your board can.
We can amend this now?
Well,
Certainly.
through the resolution
That's what he's
process,
saying.
yeah.
By resolution, we
Do
can
you think
change
it's a
it.
smart idea to do that after the public voted for it?
Um,
Would it look, I mean, it might look like, what are you doing?
No, because I think when we altered it, and excuse me, concerning the treasurer
Right.
position, that's what ultimately
It went to the public.
made it pass.
But it went to the public.
but I think there's a
This
lot,
is after the
I
fact.
think there's lots of things in this charter that
It
need
has
to be
to be.
cleaned up.
It has to be.
I want to personally put something in here so you can't raise your pay every 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And I wanted to put that in. I think, they can amend this. It says right at the beginning of the year, and we had that discussion what the pay was gonna be. And it's not gonna happen. I don't believe anybody's gonna do that, okay? But still the door is there that, the first you might say, well, let's change it to 20. And I don't think that would go over with anyone. I think I wanted to put a provision here, like it says, you can't change the elected, you can't change the chief executive, whatever, that you could only change it. We have that in the city charter. You can only change it when the next terms come up. You can't do it during the terms.
I thought you have that in here. You
The
can't-
charter
Yeah.
states that for the county
Charter
executive.
states-
But not for the legislature.
Not for legislature.
That's what I
just for
wanted
the
to change.
executive, Yeah.
So what are you saying, like, if you were the legislator for this next coming,
Right.
that you could change your pay for, because it's a 3-year term, for the second and third year, as it's written right now?
You might be able to change it for the first month. Do you see it, or?
Because right now it's set at 10,000. Am I right? Am I looking
I'm
at
waiting for
this?
everybody else to hear something.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No. Go ahead.
Because I know for the executive, it's set, and the executive can't change it for the entire 4 years.
And we set that by resolution.
Under
Right.
O here, it says to fix the amount of the annual salary of its members by resolution provided.
Where are you?
What-
What page are you?
I'm on page 3, under O.
Well, generally, an elected official can't change his salary in a term of office
Correct,
anyways.
correct.
So
All right, so
that's
that's-
just by
Yeah, I was just
normal.
gonna say, even us as supervisors, if we wanna change our salary, we gotta do it through local law or permissive referendum.
Good,
You
that's
can't
what I
do it
wanna
during
know.
your current term.
That's
Right.
what I
Yeah,
want
in
to
the
know.
current term.
Okay, that's why I'm trying to get an education. I want to know that.
Yeah, that's right.
So I don't know why they wrote it, for one position, and not the others.
Right.
That's when I read it, I wondered why they did that.
Generally, that's generally written in law
Right.
anyways. I mean,
All right.
Well, if you're, okay, so back to page 26, 1501.
Right.
Our research shows that initially, before I first came out here, I thought you had to go to a charter review commission to amend your charter. And then with the research done, no, if you're just changing your charter, it can be done by a simple resolution.
Right.
But now here, we look at what you've done here on this amendment. May be proposed by 3 processes, right? Member of your board, the executive, or the third avenue, the towns or the villages. The proposal must then be enacted by a local law, 2/3 of the vote. Then you put it to the people. So that's what you have now.
And we can't delete anything from this, is that correct?
Well, yes, you can.
Yeah.
That's what I just
Okay.
asked. We can't change
That's
it.
the
Yeah, we
question I
can
had.
change by
You could repeal that
resolution.
whole section with a resolution of your board.
But it has to be by 2/3.
No.
No, that would just go to a local law and have to be.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
So we can amend that right now, before the end of the year, and get that out.
Let me say yes, but let me check on that.
Let's check on that, and
That's a good-
I think you can, but
Me too.
This one obviously would be controversial in that it doesn't make logical sense, in that you're amending the section of your charter that says amendment of your charter, and you'd be doing it in a way that doesn't, that goes against what the actual amendment to the charter says. Now, but I believe when we were looking through this, that you can, I think you can do that off the top of my head by resolution, but we'll double check that for you.
But we can add city.
I think it would cause more of a problem if you left it without the city.
I
You
agree.
gotta have the city. It's
We
37.
gotta have the
If
city.
you just deleted the whole thing, I think would cause, I think
Right,
would cause
I
much
agree.
less
I
of a
think the
problem if
city
you
should be
just
put
deleted
in
it.
here.
I agree.
Just delete the whole section.
Yeah, that's a question. Yeah.
But why did, but we've established that the board did not do that.
No,
The board did not do it.
no, we did not
No,
do that.
we were, there were no,
I
board-
wanted to.
yeah, there were no board members allowed on the
There
commission.
was a commission that did this.
When they appointed the commission,
did.
there were
I
no
had that
city
on my list.
supervisors.
Well, the board had to approve it in order for it to get to a referendum, to
Yes.
get to a vote anyways.
Yeah.
So if you want to say the board approved it,
We did.
yeah, we
Yes,
did.
We did.
Because we didn't review it.
Yeah.
Yes, we did.
So,
There were other points that we were more focused on, so going, and we read it, but there were other things that I think we may have prioritized over this, and I mean, we didn't catch the city in this, and that's a big issue.
Can I do this to help with explaining it to the public? Look at the other charters and see how they amended, to see if anybody has a provision like
We
this.
have one in the city.
John?
The reason why you have 1501 in our charter is because word for word from Putnam County, which is what they use for a template.
Right.
It's word for word, so that's why you have the language, no other reason.
That's exactly right.
Totally irrelevant to the county of Montgomery.
Thank you.
Yes. So I think we could just,
I think we should add city.
by resolution, ax it.
I just bought Putnam
Axe it?
County's up, it's word for word.
Ax it.
By
Delete it.
resolution.
If we
delete it from the
axe it-
charter.
It's gonna look, isn't it gonna look kind of, after the public, I don't know. I mean, you could argue it both ways. I wouldn't want to see this become, oh, you people are idiots, and you put this out here and all this other stuff. You left 30-some% of the population out. You could put them in. But then again, if you look at it from the other aspect, you got towns, every second, some town can come here, or the city could ask for 25,000 different things to put in here.
Do you want to vote, do you want to burden the county legislature with that?
Well, then you could say the county should then be able to go into the towns and-
Right.
and the city
Same
and say to the city, I want to reverse this.
Right.
No, you're the one who created a charter. You know, the villages didn't, and the towns don't.
City has a charter.
Huh?
City has a
City
charter.
has a charter.
Yeah. I can-
Is Carmel a city?
Carmel?
Yeah.
California?
Huh?
Town.
Town.
Oh, okay. It's-
Carmel? In Carmel
Carmel.
County?
Yeah, isn't that in Putnam County?
Yes.
Seems to me it's.
Isn't that, that's where the offices are, aren't they?
Yes.
yeah, sure.
Aren't there any cities in Putnam County?
You know what? I don't think there's any
I
cities
don't
in
think
Putnam
that's probably
County.
why.
No, that's why.
Yeah.
Huh, there's a good reason why.
Of course.
Doesn't matter. We were writing this for us.
Well, I understand.
Regardless of that, if you could just verbatim just copy something, what does that prove? We're supposed to be doing this
That's
for
what you have in
us.
front of you. Is
Well, I
what
knew that was in there because I saw it,
verbatim.
but
Well, I think
I wasn't going to get any support to amend.
The
Would
legal
you-
term goes, time is of the essence, and they're running out of time as they got to the end, I think they got waited, they went more to, like you say, just copying it.
Yeah.
But
Let
I,
me ask this gentleman a question. Do you have a list that you think we should do here? Did you,
Well,
when you went over this?
What I wanted to do is I first like to take some direction from you here today. After I go through a few of the things that I picked out here, so that when we return, we could go through a list of things of what you want us to do, with a recommendation to you.
we had a short list.
Didn't we
from the
have a
last
list
meeting.
of things that
Yes.
you were going to look at?
Yes.
From the original meeting?
Yep, I have some of those things that I'll go through, but I thought before I leave today, we could get some direction from you, what you want us to do.
Yeah, because I hope somebody's got it written, because I didn't bring the right stuff with me. So,
Okay.
Can I stop here for a second and just, are we saying, going back to that amending of the charter by, we're just saying, we're saying that only a member of the county legislature can propose an amendment, is that what we're saying?
See, the rule I think that it is out there is that people at any point in time can gather up enough signatures to force a petition vote.
That was done
Okay?
here many years ago.
All right, that's
It was
always,
done here
that's the
by
law.
Allison Advent.
Otherwise, the normal process would be for the board to change it on your own, or you choose to establish a charter review commission and use that other independent body to do it. That reports back to the board, ultimately the board does vote.
Well, I can't see that being a problem in a county this size.
If it were me, I'd just have the board be
So,
doing it.
And then you can make those changes and tweaks as you see fit, unless you're dealing with the power or duty of an elected official. And then you have that one more step process that would have to go to the people for a vote.
Yeah, I've read that, and what's the municipal home rule laws right in there about
Correct.
exactly what you're saying, I've read that. Yeah, I guess what we have to do more or less is prepare a resolution with these changes onto it. Do we do each change an individual resolution?
All in one.
All in one, that's we do a resolution with all, I think that's the best way to go, it'll cause you less,
More of a,
tribal activity.
more of a comprehensive explanation to the public.
would you be willing to come here and explain it to the board?
Sure.
Okay, I think there's no problem.
Steve very graciously has offered his help as much as he can here, and
Look, I'm taking my direction from you though, from the elected board.
Right.
There's one.
I'm not gonna do, we're gonna take our lead from you.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, so those are some general points of interest that we wanted to report to you, and I've been I've been thinking about this a little bit. I haven't had a chance to talk to Patrick yet about it, but I'm wondering about the administrative code itself. Do you wait for the new board to come in with this executive and let them do the code?
That's been
That's
asked
been
more
an
than
issue.
once.
Exactly.
That's a good question.
I've been leaning on towards that, gathering up
Not
as
me.
much as you can.
I'm a little different on this.
I don't have an answer
What are
right
your
now.
positive and negatives? I'm curious.
Well, okay, so when I was thinking about it today, and I haven't had a chance to talk to Patrick about it, I thought that the new entity would be living under these
Right.
terms. It would make sense to have the elected executive involved in setting the policy of the government going forward. Okay?
Yeah.
On the other hand, this person's gonna come in with no rules, and it could be a little bit more chaotic.
Right.
So, again, I'm not here to tell you which way to do it. I could do a little bit more research on that for the next time I come out with a little bit more of a recommendation.
Yeah.
Well, I was thinking what used to happen, and maybe this is not tangent to this, but try to follow. You're going to get 9 people. Some of them are going to be here that are already here. You're probably going to get a few that aren't. And you have a charter, which we never had. And everybody's going to say, okay, what do we do? You're going to have an attorney, so you assume the attorney is going to really get himself or her into this. What we used to do when you had a transition of a new consul or something, the former or whoever was legal would give them like a primer, and what would be like an outline. You didn't have to go, but it's an outline of what your duties should be, what it means to pass a resolution, local law, those simple things, but at least when they went home and they looked at it, they say, here's what we're supposed to do, here's what we're not supposed to do. And I think that might be a good idea, because there's going to be confusion by what has happened. There's a lot of this is going to be in your mind, it's going to be a carryover. So you might want to have, as she's talking about the administrative code, I think you should have something, but you might want to have a suggestion of an outline
Yeah.
of how you run these departments,
Yeah.
because it's like your code book.
Yeah.
You know, when we have, I keep referring to the city, but we have this code book that's about this thick, but of course we got all the other stuff going on. But I can look up a department and say, this is how this department should be functioning, and here's what they should be doing, and some of it has to do with a certain article in the charter. And and it also, because I'm big on this, I think that it's a public document, and the public should have a right to scrutinize and see what's going on and being able to look at it and say, wait a minute, this is what it is. Now, to write a gigantic code is going to be next to impossible unless we...
Well, you're crossing functions then,
How am I crossing functions?
because go and look in the county executive. If he's running a department and he has the authority to make changes within that department, then why are you educating the legislature?
I'm only educating the legislature on what their duties are in the charter.
Okay, their duties are legislative,
That's what I tried to point out. That's what we did to the Board
right?
of Aldermen.
Resolutions?
They may not even understand that. But as you know, and I made an outline here, as you know, all the dates have changed. Okay? There's a whole new educational process here on what has to be done in how many days, et cetera. It just isn't like, oh, it's this way and that way. It really isn't. You gotta look into this. I mean, I got page after page of
Do you
this.
see our attorney here?
I don't know who's in, I'm not in the head of that. I just came because I feel I have to. Okay, I think it's
So who do
important.
you think's going to advise here? And on January 1, who's that attorney going to be?
No
Yeah,
idea, I
that
don't
was
have a point.
another question.
Chief
Who's
executive.
the clerk of the board
That's
going to be?
that's another question I have, but being you brought that up, here's a question I had. And I noticed this, I believe it was in the Ulster County Administrative Code, I'm not sure which Ulster note I ever got, I got them both here. But anyway, in their last, on the end of the last pages there, the transition, they have in there, anybody that's an appointed official, appointed by the whoever, in this case, be the Board of Supervisors, if their term ends after December 31st of 13, that's when the new form of government takes effect, that those appointed positions continue on until the end of their appointed term. That's it. You know, also, anybody that's appointed, their term ends this December 31st, their term automatically continues. It's automatically extended 6 months in order to provide a continuity
No.
in government, because if you get a new county executive that's not familiar with county government, and you get some new legislators, you have to have, the idea is to have that 6 months to get them people acquainted, get them to work at whatever they, and then the county executive, their term runs out in 6 months. And I think that's on the, I got that in.
There is the state law, because we had this problem in the city with the corporation council, that if they can't agree, and nobody agreed with the mayor, that the corporation council, I'm just using that, okay? Under state law, that they continue automatic. They just keep continuing until they're appointed. And that's a question I've had, because you could have that happening.
Well,
That's state, that's in the state law.
I would say this to you, that January 1, all of the appointments, all the appointed department heads are holdover department heads.
For 10 days.
Okay, they're holdover department heads.
10 days.
And then the county executive has to go through the process of appointing his or her selections subject to your confirmations. The ones not subject to your confirmation, he or she can fill those positions with whomever he or she wants. And all those department heads are going to leave, and the new one's going to come, and that's the way you're going to transition your government. There are ones, the highway superintendent, the commissioner of personnel, and the commissioner of social services that have 5-6-year terms.
That's right.
So they'll be exempt.
Now, I have a
Real
question.
property also.
Real
We-
property maybe has a charge.
Right, and we have that for DPW, Public Works, for,
I don't think they're exempt.
no, they're not exempt, I don't think they're exempt, but
But
social services,
Social
Paul.
services because of state law.
Right,
The other two that you mentioned are inconsistent with the charter. The personnel director was created in 1983 by local law, and the commissioner of public works was created in 1960, whatever, again by local law.
See,
So they're inconsistent.
yeah.
So their terms are inconsistent and end on 12/31 of 2013.
Yeah, because you did away with your highway superintendent, who has the term. You used the
The
commissioner
highway
of works
superintendent,
to perform
it
the
was by
functions of the
county
highway
law.
superintendent, right?
Exactly.
But the commissioner is not. They created a commissioner position in the charter, and they created a personnel director in the charter. All right? But those are separate from what was created in the county. So when we talk about our attorney or somebody reviewing the local laws that are inconsistent with the charter, he ought to be here. He ought to take an active part in this thing. Because January 1, if we don't have an administrative code, you're gonna see exactly what we got.
well, yeah,
Somebody saying they're in, somebody saying, no, they're not in.
right.
Because
My-
the charter supersedes the local laws.
Under 303, you've read 303, it says the executive made in writing failed the office of the clerk within 10 days after such appointment. That's the appointments, but it says, or in the case of an incumbent appointee, within 10 days of him taking office. So whoever takes office as the chief executive within 10 days has to make a decision on the people who are the incumbents.
Who are the incumbents?
Well, I assume the incumbents are on this sheet,
Not enough time.
which is any, because most of them serve the pleasure. It says here, personnel, attorney, public
That's
works,
what I'm
social
saying.
services, health, community
That's why I bring it
services,
up.
weights and
You
measures,
know,
defender, all these
Right.
in here serve at the pleasure of the CEO. Unless confirmed.
Wait a minute.
They have to be confirmed.
No, wait a minute. You're talking about, no. See, because the personnel director would have a term, which is in,
Let me see.
which is in,
6 years, section 15, civil
Yeah.
service.
which is in state law
Right.
after
Write
this,
that down.
all right?
All right.
But so that's not at the pleasure. It works at the initial appointment, but not at the pleasure. Other department heads are at the literal pleasure.
But if a department head that's at the literal pleasure, can the chief executive come in and says, thank you for your service, and I'm Mr. X now is going to take over your position, but is that going to require it's going to require the legislative body to say, I agree?
No.
Certain ones are subject to your
Yeah.
confirmation,
Yeah.
others are not.
Yeah,
Right down,
Right.
economic development.
county attorney.
He
Use
wouldn't.
that.
He wouldn't.
Most
no
of them are
term.
subject to legislative approval.
And
But
so,
like an attorney is one of those ones that would be subject to.
Most of these, it
two-thirds
says here, are,
requirement.
no,
need
this
to
is
be
what I wanted,
confirmed.
this is what I wanted to ask.
Here.
Our attorney, we just approved a
I
two-year,
don't know where you got
a
that.
two-year
I wrote it
term.
in the chart.
So my answer was to December 1st or January 1st, 2nd, 3rd. We know who our county attorney is going to be because we have a binding contract with him. We approved that this January 1st for 2 years.
No.
No. We can
We don't have a contract
negate
with the
that?
attorney.
There's no contract.
Yeah,
It
but
wasn't a
what-
1 year?
Yeah, but you have a
That's
2 year.
two- that's a
His appointment,
Resolution.
Oh, the resolution's not a contract?
no,
No.
his appointment's for the term of the board.
Terminus with the,
It's an appointment.
It's an appointment.
of the board.
No
It
contract.
was
We don't
a
have
2-year
contract.
appointment.
There's no contracts in the county.
See,
None?
Not like a school district.
here's the way I see it, we're talking about appointing people. If, Mr. X is working at a job today.
Okay.
And the county executive comes in and says, I want to appoint Mr. Y. Okay?
Okay.
It has to go to the county legislature, and if they don't approve Mr. Y, does the county executive, then does he come back with Mr. X, because he know Mr. Y is not going to see
That's a
it?
holdover until it's
Right,
filled.
exactly. So, you
Yeah.
know, you may go through 3 or 4 people till you find, you
Trying
know,
to point out. Now, how long can this go on?
Let's see. Federally, it's been going on for 6 years, 5 years.
So in effect,
So
you really, we could have pandemonium.
you got it on the national level. Why would you have it any different at the local
Because
level?
we're trying to straighten government out here for the public.
I myself can't picture pandemonium in a small county like this, but then again, as John said, so.
You've been here for a long time, you've seen it.
I don't know, but,
Let me look into that scenario to see if the exec can terminate the person in the office. Because if the state law doesn't require somebody there, we'll say it's a weights and measures.
Oh my God.
Or maybe you have to have one of those. I don't
Okay.
know.
You have that.
We do have-
Veterans on, well, maybe you have to have one.
What about economic development?
Economic
It's not a term.
Okay, so
But it's-
I'll look
Everybody likes
into whether or
It's
not the
most of the
person
charter.
can come in,
It's economic development.
say your
That's why it's
services are
easier
no
to
longer
spell out.
necessary.
Yeah.
I know.
And so that person
That's
is
why
now
it's
gone.
important for me, I think, to have an administrative code so that, you know, we spell out.
but that's why I bring it up, because it is it's in the Ulster County, about extending terms if they're, you know, beyond the, you know, if their date, like I say, if we got somebody expired December 31st, 2014, they stay right on to 2014.
Any county officer appointed for a fixed term prior to the effective date of the charter shall continue in his or her office for the balance of the unexpired term.
Exactly.
So that wouldn't include the county attorney, is what you're saying, even though according to the resolution passed, it was to 2014. Why wouldn't it include that?
Because you serve with the board. This board is no
Our-
longer.
our-
Because this board no longer exists.
Yeah, no. Even if we were to exist next year,
Right,
our term of office expires at the end of 2014.
Right.